I didn't know it was what I wanted, but once it happened, I did. Yeah, so that I thought that's as clear, basically as clear cut as it gets, no? Like that is just a straight causal link. At age 31, I discovered the tough lesson that a single Reddit post claiming something isn't enough to assert it as fact. Wow. I have no sympathy for you whatsoever. I'm glad you're being rinsed. Like, guys, as you probably are well aware, not too long ago, Billy Mitchell, the King of Kong, won a lawsuit against Australian incel, NGMI incel, Karl Jobst. And the basis for this lawsuit was a claim Karl Jobst made in one video about Billy, relating someone called Apollo Legend who killed themselves. Karl Jobst stated as fact that Billy had received a large cash settlement from Apollo, and as a result, there was something of a knock-on effect or confounding of variables, along with, Apollo Legend's existing health conditions, financial instability, and apparently debt caused by this settlement. Basically, that caused Apollo Legend to kill himself. That was the reason he killed himself. Now, obviously, his life circumstances at the time probably were a significant part of that. However, the kind of core issue that the judge laid out in the verdict was basically that because Karl Jobst had made that first full statement of the cash settlement, it implicated these further statements that he made afterwards. So, like, the idea of the debt seemed to be attributed to the settlement. And then as a result, because he's attributing Apollo's life circumstances to the lawsuit, which is attributed to Billy, he has then attributed the death to the life circumstances, and in the judge's view, laid out like a causal chain, essentially, from Billy's actions to Apollo's death, that's built on a false premise. Karl Jobst didn't just publish this once, however. He was contacted by Keemstar. He was threatened with a lawsuit by Billy and told about the fact there wasn't a settlement. He took out the lines that he said about Billy's role in Apollo's death, and then left the video up. Now, he didn't receive a response from Apollo Legend's brother for like a couple weeks, and in that couple of weeks, he decided to republish the original version of the video with the defamatory statement in it. So that essentially made it like the judge basically saw his retraction as meaningless, because he had ended up republishing it, even though he did end up taking it down again. So that's basically the lay of the land. And the fundamental part here is people were quite upset with Karl Jobst because all they'd heard about, whether through their own lack of interest or through Karl Jobst's presentation, people assumed the lawsuit to be about cheating, but it wasn't. It was about Billy's role in this guy's death. The lawsuit wasn't actually about any claims of cheating. There were later lawsuits that were threatened. However, those didn't actually end up getting filed. They didn't go all the way. Because, I mean, Billy Mitchell did cheat to get his scores, it seems. I think. Based on what I know. He used an emulator, not an original arcade cabinet. So it does seem like Billy Mitchell cheated, but people assumed it was about cheating, and so assumed Karl would win. Karl made a fundraiser for his second lawsuit, which was a threatened one that didn't go through, that was about cheating, and then ended up using the money from that second lawsuit to fund his defense on the first lawsuit, which is the one about Apollo Legend. So, people felt a bit misled, and that's prompted Karl. He's making this video called I Lost, where he's aiming to clear up exactly what's what's been said and what's going on. And we'll see if he does a good job of it or not. I'm against him on the outset here, I think. It's where my bias lies right now. It seemed like he was not forthcoming with the fact, at the very least, he was not forthcoming with the fact that money from that second lawsuit would then be taken and used to fund this prior defense for a different claim. But let's take a look.
April, I lost my lawsuit against Billy Mitchell, and the judge has ordered me to pay $350,000 in damages, plus interest. It goes without saying this is not the result I wanted or expected, and it's honestly quite shocking. Personally, I disagree with the judge's decision, and so I'm currently exploring any potential avenues for appeal. An appeal may stay the judgment on application until the appeal has concluded, which might result in...
So, he's appealing. Obviously, he's saying he's shocked, and we know he was shocked, because Billy's been posting Discord logs of this guy for the last, like, 2 weeks. Of him talking about how there's absolutely no way they could possibly lose, because they fed all the transcripts into AI. They put all the court transcripts into AI. And asked it, will I win this court case? And the AI said yes. So there's absolutely no way Karl could have lost.
In several outcomes. The appeal could be dismissed and I would be ordered to pay the original judgment. The judgment amount may be lowered if the court finds it excessive, or the judgment may be overturned completely if the court finds errors of law have been made. This entire process can take...
The thing is, Bug, there was such an insane amount of content on this. And that original video was ages ago. Because like this lawsuit was originally started in like 2000... I don't want to say 19. I don't want to say it's that long ago, but it was certainly a few years ago, 4 to 5 years ago or something. So that I think that original lawsuit video just kind of got totally lost in just the piles upon piles of content on this, because Karl does just do like it is just like a Billy Mitchell A-log, or was for a good period. Where it's like all the content's about Billy Mitchell, and there's a million mentions of cheating. It's always cheating. Billy sued me for cheating. Cheating. Always about that. And then never mentioned, and he'll say as much. He says that it's because he thought it'd harm his defense, which I mean is reasonable, but you have to say it a certain amount. There was never mentions of this suicide claim. It was just like never getting brought up. And I don't think Billy Mitchell was like, well, see, here's the thing, man. It's difficult once some kind of litigation starts, because Karl Jobst can't mention the rumor too much, because it could harm his defense and could mean he has to pay a higher settlement because he's propagated the rumor more. Whereas Billy Mitchell might harm his chances of gaining damages from Karl if he brings up a defamatory claim too much in public. So neither of them really spoke about it that much, I don't think. But I don't know how intentional that was to obscure anything or not. How much that was just legal strategy.
Take up to a year or longer, so as it stands, this remains an ongoing battle, and it's not a battle I hope to give up easily. This has been very upsetting, but truthfully, losing a court case isn't the end of the world, even if it is to Billy Mitchell. It sucks, it's not what I wanted, I know it's not what many others wanted, but life will go on. Unfortunately for me,
I didn't know it was what I wanted, but once it happened, I did.
Something else has happened that has been far more upsetting, and far more difficult to deal with. Many people are upset and angry with me as they believe I have misled them and lied to them about the nature of the lawsuit. Some even go as far as saying that I intentionally lied to the public to scam people out of their money through my GoFundMe. Mostly, people are upset because they believed the trial was about me accusing Billy Mitchell of cheating, but it turned out to be something else. The backlash has been pretty brutal, and it's not something I'd like to happen again, so I think it's very important for me to be as honest and transparent as I possibly can. I'm I'm going to go through the entire timeline as it happened so that you have as much information as possible. At certain points, I'm going to have to combat things that people have said about me that aren't true. But that doesn't mean I didn't also make mistakes and that there also aren't valid criticisms. I hope to address criticisms that I think are wrong.
See, the thing is, as much as I think Karl Jobst is a total bitch, I think he did fuck up his reporting pretty obviously. I am open to him not being like a complete scammer. But I can see ways in which this situation happens without you intending to mislead. Without you like being like, oh, I want to mislead my audience to keep them funding me. You know?
And those that I think are right. And I apologize about the generic Minecraft footage, but I just don't do well on camera. So this will have to do. On the 26th of May 2021, I released a video titled "The Biggest Con-Men in Video Game History Strike Again." In that video, I discussed 2 new lawsuits that had been filed by Todd Rogers and Billy Mitchell. At the end of the video, I outlined all of the various lawsuits Billy Mitchell had filed against others. And when I came around to Billy's lawsuit against the YouTuber Apollo Legend, I said these words. He also sued YouTuber Apollo Legend for $1 million. I haven't spoken about this publicly, but this lawsuit ultimately ended with Apollo giving in and settling with Mitchell. He was forced to remove all of his videos about Mitchell's cheating and paid him a large sum of money. This left him deeply in debt, which required him to find extra work. But with his ongoing health issues, this was all too much of a burden, and he ultimately took his own life. Not that Billy Mitchell would ever care, though. In fact, when Billy
listen to these words very carefully.
Sum of money. This lawsuit ultimately ended with Apollo giving in and settling with Mitchell. He was forced to remove all of his videos about Mitchell's cheating and paid him a large sum of money. This left him deeply in debt, which...
So, yeah, so here's the problem. That's the causal link, right? So it goes... He paid him a large sum of money. This left him deeply in debt. So, the payment to Billy from the lawsuit, which never happened, has left Apollo deeply in debt.
Which required him to find extra work. But with his
Which required him to find extra work.
Ongoing health issues, this was all too much of a burden, and he ultimately took his own life.
And all this together was too much, and he took his own life. So, dude, that is... I think pretty clear-cut. I understand why the judge drew that as a causal link. Because I think this is a point that comes up in this video. Is the idea that he didn't actually blame him for his death, basically.
Apollo Legend for one... I said these words. He also sued YouTuber Apollo Legend for $1 million. I haven't spoken about this publicly, but this lawsuit ultimately ended with Apollo giving in and settling with Mitchell. He was forced to remove all of his videos about Mitchell's cheating and paid him a large sum of money. This left him deeply in debt, which required him to find extra work. But with his ongoing health issues, this was all too much of a burden, and he ultimately took his own life. Not that Billy Mitchell would ever care, though. In fact, when Billy Mitchell thought Apollo died earlier, he expressed joy at the thought. The lawsuit against Apollo was just as frivolous as the rest, and Apollo definitely would have won in court, but again, he was extremely ill and couldn't handle the ongoing stress. This was...
Yeah, so that I feel like that's as clear, basically as clear cut as it gets, no? Like that is just a straight causal link. He's saying, this thing happened, and as a result, like, which led to this each time. It's not just, like, there's another way of phrasing that where it's like, Apollo Legend had to pay Billy Mitchell a large sum of money. He later on had to get a job. This was difficult with his ongoing health issues. And then he killed himself. Right? That's a way you could say it, where there's less of an obvious causal link. But the language that Karl's using is like, which led to, this was all too much. Like, it's all loading cause and effect between the statements.
Was inaccurate because the settlement terms did not...
Also, this guy's totally raped.
not involve Apollo Legend paying Billy any money. Even though this claim did turn out to be false, I believed it to be true at the time. I had been personally told there was a cash settlement, which numerous others said they were told as well, and this was also stated by multiple Reddit users, with one of them even claiming to have spoken with Apollo directly. Obviously, a Reddit...
Oh, yeah, wait. There's this brilliant quote from Karl Jobst too. You ever run scripts for videos like this past a lawyer, or is it not worth the expense? No, I don't, because fuck lawyers and what they think. If I want to say something, I'll say it. Fuck letting other people tell me what to do. A lawyer will always tell you to say nothing. Who wants to live by that principle?
post isn't usually very credible, but this person made these comments and was talking about the settlement before the settlement was even public, which implied to me that they knew what they were talking about and it was trustworthy. And the idea that Apollo Legend may have paid Billy Mitchell a large sum of money was already out in the public. In a 2020 Easyscape video, he said this.
Like I mentioned at the start of the video, there's a good chance that Apollo had to pay Billy a large amount of money in the settlement, and rumors online suggest it to be anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000 if this is what happened.
The important distinction, however, is that Easyscape did not claim this as a fact, but rather that it was just a good possibility. And I will need to point out that despite Easyscape thanking me in the description of this video, which people have then used to falsely claim that I went after Apollo Legend in some way, I had absolutely no input on anything he said regarding Apollo Legend, and I had no idea what he was going to say prior to the video's release. I had only simply provided him with some legal documents and information regarding the Todd Rogers and Billy Mitchell lawsuits. And Easyscape proactively reached out to me and allowed me to post his statement confirming this was the case. With all of the corroborating evidence I had, I believed at that time that Apollo Legend did pay Billy Mitchell money in the settlement. And this was not something that I merely fabricated or constructed myself. In Apollo Legend's goodbye video, which I won't replay here out of respect, he confirmed that he had health issues and that he had unpaid debts which he did not want to pass on to his estate. And he asked people to donate to his GoFundMe because of this. As a fellow YouTuber, I also know how much money Apollo was making on his Billy videos, which was money that he would also stop making due to having to remove these videos from his channel. And of course, you don't need to be sued to realize that being sued is an extremely stressful thing. And especially
totally irrelevant to the claims you made, buddy.
After being sued myself, I can only say that you cannot imagine the stress this puts on you.
Karl does sound autistic, yeah.
Until it happens. Apollo himself even admitted this in a Discord message, and I can only assume that the other things he's referring to included his health issues. To be clear though, I never said Billy caused Apollo's suicide, nor have I ever believed that.
Dude, you didn't say those words, but you drew the exact causal link. You drew the whole causal link. Step 1 to 2 to 3 to 4.
No one is responsible for Apollo's decision other than Apollo. If you read my words carefully, I simply laid out a sequence of events that happened one after another. I said there was a lawsuit, Apollo settled, he was in debt, though I was incorrect about the cause of the debt, he needed extra work, and he had ongoing health issues. Then I said this was all too much of a burden, and he ultimately took his own life.
So we're at 6 minutes there, so where was this clip? So apparently this is just a timeline of events. He's not drawing causal links here. Let's hear it.
Against the YouTuber Apollo Legend, I said these words. He also sued YouTuber Apollo Legend for $1 million. I haven't spoken about this publicly, but this lawsuit ultimately ended with Apollo giving in and settling with Mitchell. He was forced to remove all of his videos about Mitchell's cheating and paid him a large sum of money.
So sued him, was forced to pay. Like the retraction video, Charlie's influence on the outcome was adverse to Karl. Comments on Charlie's videos were evidence of a grapevine effect. Oh, yeah. $35.
This left him deeply in debt.
So, the payment to Billy left... So, direct relationship here between the payment to Billy and Apollo's debt. So, Apollo does actually have debt. That's a true claim, but it's attached to a false premise that Billy's lawsuit caused it. There is a causal relationship drawn there.
Which required him to find extra work, but with his...
And because of that debt, because of that real debt that isn't really attached to Billy, He's forced to find extra work.
ongoing health issues, this was all too much of a burden,
Also has ongoing health issues, so he's at a bad place to start off with.
and he ultimately took his own life.
And because of all of that, he took his own life. So there is a direct relation between the false statement of Billy taking money, leaving Apollo in debt, so the debt is caused by the Billy lawsuit. As a result of the debt, he has to get a job. So he has to work more because he's got this debt that is caused by Billy. And then because of all of that, he killed himself. So there is no way, I don't know how you cope around how Karl is trying to claim that he just laid out a timeline. No, you didn't. You said the debt came from the lawsuit with Billy, and then attributed that as a key reason to why he killed himself. So no, this is not. It's total bullshit. Fuck this. This guy's coping hard. Yeah. I heard that, Jimberly, that he made a video blaming other people. There was no mention of Billy in it.
Life. I deliberately used words like and but to connect these events. I didn't use words like because or as a result of. I was also very careful to mention Apollo's pre-existing health issues as a major factor. When I said this was all too much, I was clearly referring to multiple things together. The debt, the extra work, and his health issues, all simply as existing.
But no, you didn't just say they were existing. You drew a direct causal relationship between the debt, between the lawsuit, the debt, and then the job. Dude, this is total cope. Bro, this is so insane.
As a major factor. When I said this was all too much, I was clearly referring to multiple things together. The debt, the extra work, and his health issues, all simply as existing, not as causative factors. I never stated that Mitchell's lawsuit caused or could have caused Apollo's death. Any connection someone might draw between the lawsuit and Apollo's passing goes beyond what I actually said. I was extremely careful, though obviously not careful enough, not to make that claim, because I know the difference between describing a sequence of events and assigning blame for a tragedy. I did, however, get one statement of fact wrong, and trust me, I learned that lesson immediately. Ever since this very video back in 2021, and because of the resulting lawsuit, I have always endeavored to be much more careful about what I say. And if I do say something factual,
it's just like, he's just totally lying. The statements he made were causal. That was absolutely a causal chain of events.
Always try to ensure that I have ample concrete evidence to support it. On the 4th of June 2021, I was contacted by Keemstar, who on a call advised me that Billy was very unhappy with the comment I made regarding the settlement, and that it was false. In response to this, I removed that section and advised Keemstar to tell Billy that I had removed it and that I would make a retraction if Apollo's brother or Billy provides evidence that the claim was false. I then sent Apollo's brother an email explaining the situation, and asked if he could confirm if my statement—
Wait, really? Is this... So there's a comment from 1 year ago. And bear in mind, this lawsuit was filed 4 years ago. Apollo's death is what keeps me following the downfall of this cruel person. I get upset whenever I remember we live miles apart. What he did is unforgivable. And Karl Jobst his heart in that comment. Dude.
was incorrect. Several hours after I removed the statement from my video, Billy posted to his channel a response video. In it, he stated that my claim was wrong and that I was accusing him of murder.
May 26th, Jobs released a video downright loaded with false defamatory statements.
God, he's so cool.
The most heinous accusation related to Apollo's passing.
Aura.
In the video, Jobs outright states that I drove Apollo to suicide. In his words, he may as well have just said murder.
Several days later, I received a concerns notice from Billy's lawyer. This is a legal document that you must send to someone before you sue them for defamation. It's the first step in the process. It needs to outline the words of which they complain, what they imply, and why they are false. I didn't take this seriously when I received it, because it wasn't the first concerns notice that Billy had ever sent me. A year earlier, Billy had sent me a concerns notice after I called him a cheater in a video about Guinness.
Also, guys, great time to remind you, 192 people watching right now, 26 likes on stream. If you don't mind, please move your guys to thumbs up and clicking it, or pressing the thumbs up on your mobile device. That'd be hugely appreciated. Now, if you want to take your support one step further, you can donate directly through a stream elements link in the pinned chat message. You can also buy a membership to the channel, gift a membership to the channel, gift a whole bunch of memberships randomly throughout the chat. Buy a super chat, which will highlight a message and read it out on TTS, or buy a super sticker, which is a YouTube image or GIF that'll be highlighted in chat. I'll describe it to you. You can go to discord.gg/Kuihman, twitter.com/Kuihman, or reddit.com/r/Kuihman. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
World records. This was just after they reinstated his fake world records. The concerns notice was ridiculous, as obviously Billy is a proven cheater and everyone knows this, and it falsely claimed that I implied he was a criminal because I suggested that he may have paid Guinness to reinstate his scores, even though paying Guinness to adjudicate world records is literally their business model. And during this time, Billy was suing multiple entities for telling the truth that he is a cheater. So there was no reason for me to believe that his second concerns notice regarding Apollo Legend was any more trustworthy, and I assumed it was completely bogus and an attempt to silence me, just like all of his other actions. A couple of days after I received Billy's concerns notice regarding Apollo Legend, I re-edited my video to add...
like absolute retard moment. I received a legal notice and I didn't consult a lawyer. Okay, so thanks for telling me that you're just a fucking idiot then. Just say that. Say less, bro. Say... yeah, I'm a fucking retard and I don't seek legal advice when I'm in a situation that I need legal advice in. Just say that, you fucking idiot.
Add back in my claims regarding the settlement. Again, I believed them to be true, and my efforts to avoid legal action by taking them down had failed. In the pinned comment of Billy's response video, he even said that removing the words or making a retraction would make no difference. Several days after I reinstated my claim, I received an email reply from Apollo Legend's brother. He confirmed that originally Billy had tried to get money from Apollo, but this greatly upset Apollo because he simply had no money to give. And ultimately, they adjusted the settlement, and in the final version there was no money transferred. As soon as I received this email, I removed my claim from my video, and it has been gone ever since. After I removed the claim from my
second time, yeah, we know.
Video, we responded to Billy's lawyers advising them that the segment was removed and that I would be issuing a retraction. Billy said this was not sufficient, and in the response from Billy's lawyer, they stated that proceedings were necessary. Despite this, I still planned on releasing a retraction, and in my video, The Greatest Feat in Video Game History, I included this segment at the end. Now, before I finish the video, I would like to take this opportunity to correct something that I said in a previous video. Back in May, I talked about the new lawsuits filed by Todd Rogers and Billy Mitchell. In that video, I made the claim that Apollo Legend paid money to Billy Mitchell as part of their settlement. I would never make such a claim unless I had very good evidence to support my position. In response to this, Billy Mitchell released a video accusing me of lying and claimed that no money was exchanged. He didn't provide any evidence to back up this claim, nor did he attempt to get in contact with me to clear up any misinformation I may have had. However, I did investigate further as I would never want to provide false information to my viewers. I reached out to a member of Apollo's family who graciously agreed to clarify some details. According to them, despite Mitchell's best efforts, Apollo Legend would not pay any money, and in the final version of the settlement, there was no clause indicating that he was required to do so. Therefore, the statement I made in that video was almost certainly incorrect.
Is there a text version of the judge's verdict? Does anyone have that? Because here's something I'm interested in. I get, okay, so his argument here, it basically is, well, I did this gay speedrunning video, and at the end of that, I said, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to say that. But like, you're still fucking hearting comments saying it, so what's the deal, bro?
And no matter what kind of relationship I have with Mitchell, I do not believe that it is ever justified to lie or mislead. Mitchell also claimed that I was accusing him of murder. This is certainly not the case. I do have my opinion regarding the impact of the settlement on Apollo's decision, but ultimately, it was no one's responsibility but his own. The only reason I mentioned it in that video was because I felt like it was important to let you know what happened.
Nah, don't worry about uploading it. I don't know if I'll use it, so just leave it for now.
As I know many of you enjoyed his videos. My standard of evidence has changed dramatically since I made this original claim, so of course now I disagree with my statement that I had very good evidence. But I was just trying to say that I didn't just make this up out of nowhere, and I didn't consider Billy's legal threat against me as him trying to get in contact with me, which is why I said that he didn't. After I released my retraction, my lawyers contacted Billy's lawyer to let them know, though we never heard back.
It's like a ridiculous argument. It's like, how old is Karl Jobst? Like 35 or something? Like, oh, at age 31, I discovered the tough lesson that a single Reddit post claiming something isn't enough to assert it as fact. Wow. I have no sympathy for you whatsoever. I'm glad you're being rinsed. Like, dude.
Of course, now I disagree with my statement that I had very good evidence, but I was just trying to say that I didn't just make this up out of nowhere, and I didn't consider Billy's legal threat against me as him trying to get in contact with me, which is why I said that he didn't. After I released my retraction, my lawyers contacted Billy's lawyer to let them know, though we never heard back. I've heard a lot of people say that I never made a retraction, or never attempted to correct the record, or was trying to hide my retraction, and that if only I had just made a retraction, this entire thing would have been avoided. But that's just not the case. I wanted the retraction to get as many views as possible. I even said as much to my lawyers at the time. And ultimately, it did. My retraction got far more views than the original video. But it was clear from Billy, even before I made the retraction, that it wasn't going to affect his actions in any way. Then, in September 2021, Billy filed his lawsuit against me. Those are the events that led up to the lawsuit. But if the lawsuit was apparently just about my claim about the Apollo Legends settlement, then why did many people believe that it was about allegations of cheating? There are multiple reasons, and yes, I am one of them, but it wasn't just my YouTube audience who thought that. It was even news outlets. In fact, they were playing segments on national news about how Billy was suing me for cheating.
A bitter war of Donkey Kong has exploded, with controversy over a high score making it all the way to a Queensland courtroom. An American video game champion is suing a Brisbane YouTuber over cheating claims.
And they didn't think that because I told them or because they watch my videos. They ran that story because of the arguments that were being made during the lawsuit and the nature of the pleadings. In Australian defamation, you must look at the entire publication. If I publish a video, Billy doesn't get to just extract a single paragraph and ignore everything else. In the video where I made those claims about the Apollo settlement, I also claimed that Billy was exposed for cheating. I claimed that he was banned for cheating. I said that he abused the legal system to force people to acknowledge his video game scores. And I said that he expressed joy at the thought of Apollo Legends' death, because he did. I mean, I even showed in that same video text messages where Billy said he would try his hardest not to smile and giggle if Apollo Legend was actually dead. So as part of Australian defamation law...
Carl made no effort to point towards that retraction. There isn't even a timestamp. Yeah, I was trying to look for the more full court documents, but I can't find them. I don't care that much. Because I tried to see, like, what did Billy Mitchell use as evidence for the persistence of this claim? Like, for Karl Jobst persisting on this claim, because that seems to be part of the judgment, basically. Because I can see that, but I want to know what he used as evidence. I can see, like, him hearting comments, shit like that. It's like, that's total, like, rat behavior. Well, you're being sued for a statement that you know is false, and you keep hearting comments regurgitating it. Like, dude. What?
Law, there is a concept known as contextual truth, and this was one of my defenses. My defense states that because I made those other claims that both hurt Billy's reputation and were true, Billy was harmed anyway, and the words he complained of didn't harm him any more than he otherwise would have been. And in response to these other claims, Billy denied them all. He denied that he was exposed for cheating, he denied that he was banned by Twin Galaxies, he denied that he abuses the legal system, and he denied that he expressed joy at the thought of Apollo Legends' death. And because he denied those extra claims, the breadth of argument during the lawsuit expanded to include those as well. And the media evidently latched onto the cheating claims because Billy was denying those, and that was his main reputation. So on one hand, the reason Billy originally sued me was because of Apollo Legend, but on the other hand, because he doesn't get to just isolate that one paragraph and ignore everything else in the video, the cheating allegations, along with other more serious claims, became involved. And ultimately, the judge did agree that those other claims were made and that they were substantially true, though in his opinion, they weren't more serious than the claim Billy was suing over.
Well, yeah, because claiming that someone's actions, like you didn't claim they led to his death, but you created a clear causal chain between his actions and this guy's death based on a false premise. That is a more serious claim than you cheated in video games. Retard. What the fuck are you talking about?
Which I personally don't agree with. In my personal opinion, I think expressing joy over Apollo Legend's death is far worse than any implication that the eventual settlement of Billy's $1 million lawsuit against a young YouTuber who had...
Expressing joy over his death is worse than driving him to suicide. There's no way you're making this argument. What?
Expressing joy over Apollo Legend's death is far worse than any implication that the eventual settlement of Billy's $1 million lawsuit against a young YouTuber who had major health issues and no money, and who was just expressing
Wait, but then he's like laying out the case for exactly why the other claim is more serious. Dude, listen to this. What's going on?
Though in his opinion, they weren't more serious than the claim Billy was suing over, which I personally don't agree with. In my personal opinion, I think expressing joy over Apollo Legend's death is far worse than any implication that
expressing joy is far worse than
the eventual settlement of Billy's $1 million lawsuit against a young YouTuber who had major health issues and no money, and who was just expressing the truth, might have contributed in...
Like, you hear that, right? It's like, I think expressing joy is way worse than targeting this poor, innocent, chronically ill, dying, decrepit, and stealing money right out of his pockets. His hard-earned money right out of his pockets. When he was just speaking the truth to power. Like, what?
in some way to his decision to end his life. After Billy filed his lawsuit, I released a video in September 2021 titled I'm Being Sued and Cancelled, where I announced that I was officially being sued. In that video, I specifically state that I'm not going to talk about what the lawsuit was about. Normally, I'd give you a full breakdown of this kind of thing, but because this one involves me, I'm going to keep my...
He's trying to hide behind semantics, but he's wrong on the semantics. Like, we listened to the clip of him talking about it. Like, yeah, he's making a semantic argument, but it's fundamentally wrong because he did lay out a causal chain between Billy Mitchell's actions and this guy's death.
Cards a lot closer to my chest. What I will tell you is that I am being sued for defamation, and the amount of damages being sought is $450,000. I will definitely be giving you updates as we go, but I don't want to give out too many details or strategies before I use them in court. After this, I didn't talk about my lawsuit at all for over a year. And during this time, news outlets were posting articles about how Billy was suing me for cheating. Again, this wasn't because I said this. I wasn't even talking about my lawsuit at all. These articles were being written because reporters were reading the court documents where these issues...
Look at this, look at this. We got great stuff here. This is the court documents. So... the retraction and repeated publication.
Condolences to Spinal since the GOAT, Gorgura, announced her retirement from Whole Olive.
Take me out to the book. Okay.
On the days when...
Not this. Did not apologize, and the only claim he retracted was that the money changed hands. Not the implication. Simon. I don't know it's true. I thought I just heard him in a clip say that. Yeah, no, he did still imply that he felt like Mr. Mitchell still had a hand in his death. Yeah, true. He didn't play. He's like, well, I have my own opinions about that. Made similar insinuations on the 4th of June 2021 tweet in his comment on the 6th of June 2021. Yeah. Okay. 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 Well, I don't know if we can get much more from that, really. But it's pretty... I think that is pretty crazy, though, because he does say, in his retraction, he says, I'll keep my opinions to myself about the role or whatever. We just heard that a minute ago. But that's not... You're not really retracting it, then, are you? You're giving the audience enough to still believe it.
Issues were being argued, and I wasn't going to go out of my way to draw attention away from the cheating allegations either. Part of my defense was that Billy, more than anything else, has a reputation as a cheater. And when you think about Billy Mitchell, people don't think about that one brief claim I made in a video in 2021 and then retracted. They just associate him with cheating and abusing the legal system. The fact that so many people didn't even know about the Apollo legend...
Yeah, Pete, I agree. Broadly, a lot of people don't, but there are people that now believe Billy Mitchell to have had a hand in someone's death wrongly because of your statements.
Settlement claim is evidence of that. Then, in 2022, Billy sent me a third concerns notice because of a video I released in April regarding one of Billy's witnesses accusing him of extortion, and he followed that up with another lawsuit, of which he sent to my lawyers and told them he was going to file it against me.
Billy also showed evidence that he lost 2 events specifically because the organizers believed he caused Apollo's death. Yeah, well, I mean, that's... Yeah, you can show tangible damages. That's rough. That's rough.
Suit, of which he sent to my lawyers and told them he was going to file it against me. And then he sent me a fourth concerns notice, saying he intended to sue me because I put a 10-second AVGN meme in a video completely unrelated to Billy. Billy was now threatening me with 3 simultaneous lawsuits.
We're gonna cheat. Wait. That's right, we're gonna cheat. Where's the... He always has a plan.
The first one had already cost $200,000 in the first year alone. So if Billy filed the second and third lawsuits, there was no way I could afford to defend myself. I had Billy Mitchell, the guy who had already sued multiple people for exposing his cheating, and who had already sued me once before, telling me he was going to sue me 2 more times. And the reasons were insane. They were obvious abuses of the legal system. I felt I had no choice but to create a GoFundMe, and I advertised it in a video called Billy Mitchell Has Gone Insane and I Need Your Help. In that video, I clearly explain what is happening and why I'm creating the GoFundMe. Every single word I said in that video was true, and all of this is explained in the video. I understand that this was several years ago, so I don't blame anyone for not remembering the video or why I created the GoFundMe, but it wasn't in response to the first lawsuit that ultimately went to trial. It was because of Billy's constant legal threats against me, most of them having nothing to do with Apollo legend. This video got a lot of attention at the time. Even Moist Critical made a video about it.
This is one of the most baffling reasons for a lawsuit I think I've probably ever heard in general. Now, as I understand it, the second lawsuit hasn't been fully filed yet. Right now it is still in the letter of intent stage, where they are intending to sue Karl and have sent him the documents to indicate such, but it looks like it is going to be sent in the coming days.
And the GoFundMe raised 150,000 Australian dollars immediately. If anyone came away from that video thinking that Billy was suing me for saying he cheated, it's because he had started the process for doing exactly that, on top of everything else. Ultimately, these extra actions never made it all the way to trial, but there was no way for me to know that at the time.
But the thing is, then you have to be reiterating which ones are still going to trial. You have to say, this is the claim that we're going to trial on. This is what we're going to trial on. This is the video we're going to trial on. Something like that. You have to be telling people what you are. If it's different to what you aren't going to trial on now, but people think you're going to trial on, you're going to need to correct people and say, no, I'm going to trial for this. I'm going to trial for the death thing. I understand that might harm his defense, but otherwise, it's like lying by omission. If you're just always banging on about cheating, Billy suing me, cheating, Billy suing me, and you never mention this other claim, that is like lying by omission. You're letting the audience believe that the cheating is the driving force behind everything when it's not. Well, it kind of is in a way, because Billy Mitchell is probably motivated by not liking people calling him a cheater. However, that's not what the legal issue is motivated by.
Time. And it was possibly even because of the
Or
success of the
revolving around, at
GoFundMe
least.
that Billy ended up backing down. People are now using the fact that Billy didn't go all the way through with his threats to say that the GoFundMe was a scam. But I was just responding to actions taken by Billy and protecting myself. And the money was used exactly for the purposes that I said it would be, which was to help cover legal fees. This narrative that this whole thing...
But the thing is that if you say it's for legal fees for one case that is different in substance to the other case, you need to make it clear that the money could also be used for this other cases of a different substance. Because here's the thing, right? Let's say you donate to the GoFundMe after the second video when it's about the cheating, after the second lawsuit when it's about the cheating. You donate to that GoFundMe, and you've not heard about the Apollo Legend stuff. Who's to say you want your money used on the Apollo Legend thing? Maybe you only think Karl Jobst deserves money for the cheating thing. Maybe if you knew about the Apollo Legend thing, you would think, oh, no, I don't want to give this guy money for that. He fucked that up. Well, I think he's wrong there. I think he did defame that guy. So you need to make it clear to your audience what it is exactly their money's being used on. You can't just go, oh, well, I raised all this money for this lawsuit. That didn't end up happening, so I'm going to use it for this other lawsuit that's totally different. No. You have to make it very clear exactly which lawsuit it's going to be used for.
I said it would be, which was to help cover legal fees. This narrative that this whole thing was only ever about Apollo Legend, which ironically is a narrative that started with Billy Mitchell, is completely false. And if that were the case, Billy would not...
Nobody's saying the whole thing was about Apollo Legend. This lawsuit was about Apollo Legend. Dude, this guy's such a fucking rat.
But it looks like it is going to be sent in the coming days.
And the GoFundMe raised $150,000 ultimately went to trial. It was because of Billy's constant legal threats against me, most of them having nothing to do with Apollo Legend about it.
This is ever heard in still in the letter of documents to indicate these.
And the GoFundMe raised $150,000 immediately. If anyone came away from that video thinking that Billy was suing me for saying he cheated, it's because he had started the process for doing exactly that, on top of everything else. Ultimately, these extra actions never made it all the way to trial.
Wait, but okay, I don't...
The guy who had already sued multiple people for exposing his cheating and who had already sued me once before, telling me he was going to sue me 2 more times. And the reasons were insane. They were obvious abuses of the legal system. I felt I had no choice but to create a GoFundMe, and I advertised it in a video called Billy Mitchell Has Gone Insane and I Need Your Help. In that video, I clearly explain what is happening and why I'm creating the GoFundMe. Every single word I said in that video was true, and all of this is explained in the video. I understand that this was several years ago, so I don't blame anyone for not remembering the video or why I created the GoFundMe, but it wasn't in response to the first lawsuit that ultimately went to trial.
But this is the exact issue, right? Is you're not laying out in this video, in the video where you announce and advertise your GoFundMe, you are responding only to these twin galaxies and all this shit, right? Only to the cheating lawsuit. But then you're using that GoFundMe that you've advertised with this video about cheating to fund a lawsuit that is not about cheating. It's about Apollo Legend's death. That's the issue. This isn't the video that he's talking about here, the one that promoted his GoFundMe. I don't believe this is the video where he let Billy Mitchell explain why he's suing. This isn't the one with the clip of Billy Mitchell explaining the Apollo Legend stuff or whatever. I don't believe that's that video. And I haven't seen in the GoFundMe description him saying at all, oh, this will be used for a different lawsuit, actually.
His constant legal threats against me, most of them having nothing to do with Apollo Legend. This video got a lot of attention at the time. Even Moist Critical made a video about it.
This is one of the most baffling reason.
He did say, where did he say that? In the GoFundMe or in the video?
for a lawsuit I think I've probably ever heard in general. Now, as I understand
it, any surplus money will be used to defend other lawsuits. Is that his exact phrasing? Because if he didn't lay out the reason, then that's totally scummy, in my opinion. If you don't give the reason in the video where you're announcing the GoFundMe, or in the GoFundMe description at least, that's totally scummy. In the video, yeah, dude.
Shekels. Hope you enjoying your evening, everyone.
Thank you for the $5. Thank you. Big Fury. Yeah, dude, you can't just say any money will be any surplus money will be used to defend the other lawsuits and not explain what the other lawsuits are. That's total bullshit. That's total rat behavior.
The second lawsuit hasn't been fully filed yet. Right now it is still in the letter of intent stage, where they are intending to sue Karl and have sent him the documents to indicate such, but it looks like it is going to be sent in the coming days.
And the GoFundMe raised 150,000 Australian dollars immediately. If anyone came away from that video thinking that Billy was suing me for saying he cheated, it's because he had started the process for doing exactly that, on top of everything else. Ultimately, these extra actions never made it all the way to trial, but there was no way for me to know that at the time. And it was possibly even because of the success of the GoFundMe that Billy ended up backing down. Dude. People are now using the fact that Billy didn't go all the way through with his threats to say that the GoFundMe was a scam. But I was just responding to actions taken by Billy and protecting myself. And the money was used exactly for the purposes that I said it would be, which was to help cover legal fees. This narrative that this whole thing was only ever about Apollo Legend, which ironically is a narrative that started with Billy Mitchell, is completely false. And if that were the case, Billy would not have taken action against me on 4 separate occasions, with 3 of those having nothing to do with Apollo Legend. That is why I never thought this whole thing was actually about Apollo Legend.
Wait. I never thought it was about Apollo. Wait, what?
With Billy Mitchell is completely false. And if that were the case, Billy would not have taken action against me on 4 separate occasions, with 3 of those having nothing to do with Apollo Legend. That is why I never thought this whole thing was actually about Apollo Legend. I had been threatened and was dealing with so many actions from Billy that were related to cheating.
Yes, your whole drama with Billy Mitchell is not purely about Apollo Legend. Correct. Obviously. No one's claiming that. But the most threatening lawsuit, the most important lawsuit, was entirely about Apollo Legend. The one that you were likely to lose, the one you had less of a chance in, was about that. So obviously, as much as it has a relatively small place in the drama, it has a disproportionate significance. Obviously. It's also a massive claim. It's like a step above video game cheating. No. Okay, so Sting. There's a slight confusion there. He didn't have other lawsuits filed against him, but Billy had had sent him letters of concern and shit like that, starting the process for lawsuits about cheating. But they didn't actually go. They didn't actually get filed. That's not a lawsuit. Yeah, but we're not really. I think this is a really important point. It's obviously it's true. It's not a lawsuit. That is correct. But Karl Jobst was raising money for a legal defense because Billy Mitchell was expressing intent to sue. Right. That is the point of litigation starting. If you're sending out letters of intent, that's the point. You haven't filed a lawsuit, but you're engaging the process of litigation, right? I think it's fair enough to say Billy Mitchell's trying to sue me, Billy Mitchell's threatening to sue me, these sorts of things. It's a lawsuit situation, it's a lawsuit drama in some way. Like, I don't think that's an important point, really.
Taken action against me on 4 separate occasions, with 3 of those having nothing to do with Apollo Legend. That is why I never thought this whole thing was actually about Apollo Legend. I had been threatened and was dealing with so many actions from Billy that were related to cheating that from my perspective, this Apollo Legend lawsuit was just Billy trying to capitalize on a mistake I made. But wrong or right, I was under the impression that Billy was suing me because they kept talking about his cheating and talking about him in a negative light in general. Otherwise, those other actions made no sense whatsoever. It was clear to me that his goal was just to silence me, especially when it came to the Apollo Legend claim, as I had already removed the words and made a retraction. The only other time I mentioned the GoFundMe was at the end of a video I released in August of 2023, where, ironically, I was responding to Billy saying that my GoFundMe was a scam. However, in this video, I allow Billy
Mitchell always has a plan. Dude, he won so fucking hard.
Words and made a retraction. The only other time I mentioned the GoFundMe was at the end of a video I released in August of 2023, where, ironically, I was responding to Billy saying that my GoFundMe was a scam. However, in this video, I allow Billy to fully explain why he is suing me, and I even say myself that the lawsuit relates to Apollo Legend.
Okay, but time went on, and eventually, without a single source except a now deleted post on Reddit. Now deleted post was his only source where he blamed me for taking the life of another human being and for what I did to him. And I said, that's it.
Billy Mitchell is
But before playing this Billy clip, he said that Billy lies about everything. For real, dude. I just, like, Karl has, like, dug his own grave. He was, like, so desperate to be just, like, on top the whole time on the internet. And he completely dug his own grave in court. It's just so crazy, man. What a fucking idiot. Seriously, it's so crazy.
is referring to the YouTuber Apollo Legend, who tragically took his own life in December of 2020. I won't go into specifics about this particular point because it does relate to his ongoing lawsuit against me. Of course, I do pick apart a lot of Billy's lies, and I deny that I actually said Billy took Apollo Legend's life, because I didn't, but I wasn't trying to hide the fact
now, I will say, I feel like he might have an argument in an appeal for, like, lower damages because, like, he wasn't the originator of the claim, and, like, he did, like, kind of retract it. Like, I feel like maybe should Billy really get the full damages, like these crazy damages for when he did kind of retract it? He did retract the factual basis, but I could possibly see a reduction in the payment, but there's no way he's, like, straight winning the appeal, I don't think.
lawsuit was related to Apollo Legend. Otherwise, I wouldn't have even made this video or say directly that it was. And of course, I do also say that the allegations of cheating are relevant, because they were being argued as well. After I promoted the GoFundMe in this video, it quickly reached $200,000, at which time I closed it and stopped accepting donations, which was almost a year before we went to trial. So throughout 2024, as I began talking about the trial more and more, the GoFundMe was already closed and I wasn't accepting money from the public. I have seen people point to the description of the GoFundMe and say that it didn't provide enough information or exact details about what the lawsuits and threats were about, and in that regard, I totally understand if people think that was bad practice or an issue. I can only apologize and say that I didn't give the description much thought. As I said, I only mentioned or linked to the GoFundMe.
What? I didn't give my GoFundMe description much thought. Dude, trying to raise money. You're trying to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars. Supporters. You should probably think about what the fuck you're saying. Dude. It's so baffling. It's so bad. This guy is so stupid. I can't understand it. It's truly insane. This guy's just dug his own grave the whole fucking way.
Details about what the lawsuits and threats were about, and in that regard, I totally understand if people think that was bad practice or an issue. I can only apologize and say that I didn't give the description much thought. As I said, I only mentioned or linked to the GoFundMe in 2 videos outlining things in much more detail, which I assumed people had already watched. Though if I knew the description should have included everything, I would have absolutely no problem doing just that. The fact that so many people got upset or felt misled after the judge's decision and I lost the lawsuit came as a huge shock to me. There was a lot of reporting being done around the time of the trial, and no backlash occurred then, when it was also very clear what the trial was about. And I've had many people tell me they always knew exactly what the lawsuit was about and they don't feel misled. So it would be very easy for me just to claim that people are only upset because I lost and Billy won, which is not the outcome everyone wanted. But I don't think that's entirely true either. I never said that Billy Mitchell sued me for cheating, but I also did not repeat or draw attention to the original claim that got me in trouble. Nor did I constantly remind people that the lawsuit related to a polo legend. Not because I was trying to scam anybody.
How do I feel? Let me.
Tell me they always knew exactly what the lawsuit was about and they don't feel misled. So it would be very easy for me just to claim that people are only upset because I lost and Billy won, which is not the outcome everyone wanted. But I don't think that's entirely true either. I never said that Billy Mitchell sued me for cheating, but I also did not repeat or draw attention to the original claim that got me in trouble. Nor did I constantly remind people that the lawsuit related to a polo legend. Not because I was trying to scam anybody or mislead people, but because I believed it would have been detrimental to my case.
Yeah, so
I was very happy to talk.
I can see the way this pans out, and he's not malicious, you know, and he's not trying to scam. But the difficulty is that his behavior, like, it aligns with his interests very heavily, you know, past just even wanting to make sure he's got a strong legal defense. It just aligns with his interests in appearing good in the public perception. It's like when you're always, you know, doing little oopsies where you get something wrong or you don't think about something fully, and they always benefit you every time you do them. Well, I start to think that you're not actually making mistakes, and actually you're more motivated by self-interest than you let on, you know?
Publicly about Billy threatening to sue me for calling him a cheater, and go into detail about how much of a cheater he is, because all of that is true. Despite the fact that he had threatened me multiple times for calling him a cheater, I was not afraid to continue making that claim. And I was happy to discuss his cheating even when it related to my currently ongoing lawsuit, because it was one of my defenses. When it came to Apollo Legend, this was a different story. I made a claim that included information that was not true. I didn't accuse Billy of murdering Apollo or causing his death, so I don't think I should have lost the lawsuit, but at the end of the day, I said something that was not accurate, which I admitted to and corrected years ago, and I was never going to repeat it.
Yeah, like, in like the most lame, limp way possible. Yeah, without fully taking it back. Yeah, sure. Okay, dude.
The internet doesn't work like we want it to work. If I drew more attention to Billy's claims about what I said, more people would have repeated it, and it would have been used against me in court. For example, Billy's team crawled through thousands and thousands of comments on 2 Moist Critical videos about Billy Mitchell, which were released years after my video. They found a handful of comments that related to Apollo Legend, and then without any causal link, claimed that they were a direct result of my video. Even though there was no mention of me or my channel, and we don't know who these people are or why they are making these comments, the judge ruled that I'm responsible. Essentially, it didn't seem to matter if people may have come to this conclusion independently, and it didn't seem to matter if there was no evidence linking their conclusion to my—
I don't know what Australian precedent's like, but yeah, this seems like pretty weak evidence for, like, this basically proving damages, right? It's about the grapevine effect and showing that this idea is going to persist. But yeah, well, you can't attribute this to Karl, really.
These people are, or why they are making these comments, the judge—
But I don't know what the precedent's like in Australian law, so—
ruled that I'm responsible. Essentially, it didn't seem to matter if people may have come to this conclusion independently, and it didn't seem to matter if there was no evidence linking their conclusion to my original video. The blame for every single comment was entirely placed upon me. The judge even flat out stated that no comments of this nature were ever made before my video. And not only is this one of the reasons the damages might have been so high, but it seemed to be used as proof that every comment was because of my original video. But I disagree with this statement, as there were plenty of comments well before my video ever came out saying that Billy was responsible. So you can see how dangerous even mentioning Apollo Legend would have been. That was my reasoning for not repeatedly bringing up Apollo Legend, though evidently my behavior of talking about the lawsuit so many times without reminding people explicitly what it was about led to many people being confused. And if you're one of those people, I sincerely apologize. I just hope that you can consider that it was not done intentionally to mislead you or for nefarious purposes. I also made the mistake of reposting
It's just like, it's very hard to believe that when he's doing stuff like priming Billy's explanation of why he's suing Karl with like, oh, this guy's a liar, by the way. And like they did that bullshit retraction. It's very hard to buy that there was no malice here.
Articles covering my lawsuit, because all of the reporting that was done before the trial focused on the cheating allegations, and that wasn't the full story. As I said before, I had so many threats regarding the cheating allegations that I believed Billy's true motivations were to shut me up about the cheating videos. And the lawsuit did actually involve Billy denying those cheating allegations ever happened. However, I should have made it more clear that the lawsuit wasn't mainly about cheating. I just didn't know how to do that without jeopardizing my defense. And I also carelessly assumed most people already knew what the lawsuit was about anyway, because I had said it in one of my videos. If I truly understood the impact my actions would later have on people, I would have been much more careful. Obviously, in hindsight, it may have been better to not talk about the lawsuit at all, but I'm not sure if that was ever going to happen. It's just not in my nature. And this was the biggest thing impacting my life and this channel for multiple years, so of course I felt compelled to talk about it. I should have just found a way to be more transparent if I were to discuss it, and I can understand fully if you are disappointed in my actions, especially if you donated to the GoFundMe. If you weren't really following the trial closely and don't have much information about what happened during it, and all you're currently reading is news about the judgment or drama videos saying that I lied about everything, I'd suggest remaining skeptical for the time being. I will wait until the dust settles before discussing what happened during trial in more detail, but at some point I definitely will, and hopefully at that point you will have a better understanding about why I was so confident I would win. And it's also possible that you might even agree that this judgment is simply crazy once you have all of the details. I will say one thing though. The judge found Billy Mitchell to be a credible witness, and essentially accepted his full oral testimony as fact, despite how many.
This cross-examination, Mr. Mitchell also became emotional describing Mr. Jobs' video, his responses to requests to retract it. In my view, that evidence was honestly given. In summary, I do not accept Mr. DeWard's submission that Mr. Mitchell was an unimpressive, unsatisfactory, or untruthful witness. It seems like it's in the context of a specific claim, though. Dude, this guy's being a fucking rat, isn't he? Dude, where's this? What document again? In considering Mr. Mitchell's credibility as a witness, obviously I take into account what he and other witnesses documented from the time, but I also take into account how Mr. Mitchell gave his evidence. While conscious of the warnings about the judge's fallibility in determining truthfulness or otherwise from witnesses' demeanor, overall I considered him to be attempting to answer questions while sometimes becoming frustrated or emotional in the light of the questioning. One occasion in particular struck me as unfeigned and indicative of the effort on him and Mr. Jobs' actions. Effect on him of Mr. Jobs' actions. In his examination in chief, Mr. Summers asked him what his reaction seeing the video. This led to the following exchange. I was absolutely angry. I mean, I was shocked. I was totally lost, quite honestly. When I heard the words and I kept watching the video, I absolutely got terrified. Alright, how many times did you watch it in that initial viewing? Probably 3 times immediately. And you said you felt terrified. Why was that? Because Mr. Jobs had opened up an entirely new spectrum of defamation. Nobody in my life, and any part of my life, had ever accused me of something like that. When you say something like that, what are you referring to specifically there? Hounding another. Hounding a young man to commit suicide. Nobody'd ever made an accusation like that of me whatsoever. I was totally lost. I wasn't lost with another accusation. I knew how to handle it. What was I going to do here? I couldn't even talk to him. If I sent him something, all he did was post it on Twitter. You couldn't talk to him, you couldn't write to him, you couldn't do anything. It was out there for the whole world to see, and it wasn't true. A little later, he was asked why he made a response video. He said, "Again, I'm being honest with you, I was completely lost. I didn't know what to do, and I was willing to follow family advice. And so the idea was to create a video to rebut what Mr. Jobst said. To rebut what he said, that I hounded a young man to commit suicide. His video had heinous accusations and lies. I wanted everyone to know that it was premeditated. It was calculated, it was deliberate, and... ... He was then taken to Mr. Jobst's tweet of 4th June, referencing a response video. The concerns notice sent to Mr. Jobst by Mr. Mitchell's lawyers and Mr. Jobst's tweet in response to that notice that led to the following questions and answers. After this tweet response, these last 2 tweet responses we've seen from Mr. Jobst, how did they make you feel? There was absolutely nothing I could do. And when you're hopeless and you can't do anything, helpless and you can't do anything, it's absolute terror. Okay, I couldn't talk to him, I couldn't call him, I couldn't write him. I couldn't do anything. Every tweet you read, okay, leads you to believe that because he's in Australia, you can't get to him. Because he's in Australia, you can't sue him. Because he's in Australia, he feels comfortable. He didn't want to do anything except inflict harm. That's all he wanted to do. I felt as though he wanted to get me to sue him. He wanted me to sue him. I mean, it didn't matter what happened. He received a public rebuttal from us. Okay, he received a phone call from a friend. He received a concerns notice, and he just kept coming. Well, sorry, let me just ask you. Did you see that version put up on or after the 9th of June? I saw it on the 9th. Okay, and how did that make you feel after you watched it again with the words put back in? Again, like I said, felt completely helpless. There's nothing I could do. I mean, he just kept coming. I said to my son, I don't understand. What, does he want me to sue him or something? I mean, he actually put the words back into the video. That's incredible. I mean, I got upset just talking about it. All of this evidence about how he felt, what he thought, that was helpless. So, okay, right. All he's being found to be a credible witness on here is, like, his emotions. Like, how he felt about being accused of murdering this guy. And, like, yeah, I'm sure he is acting like, you know, a bit more distressed than he truly was or something. Like, that's totally possible. He will probably do that in court all the time to maximize the damages. But, like, this isn't like it's not like he's being found to be a credible witness for, like, a key hinging part of this. It's, yes, he felt bad about being accused of causing someone's death. I'm sure he did, to some extent, feel bad about being accused of causing someone's death. Yeah, it's probably annoying, at the very least, to be accused of that. Like, what's your fucking point, Carl? It's like he thinks this is unknown. This is like, this is throwing a bit to the Billy Mitchell hating audience, you know? This is giving them something to run with. Oh, well, the judge found Billy Mitchell to be a credible witness. How could you ever find Billy Mitchell to be a credible witness? That's fucking ridiculous. That's what he's saying. He's saying, like, I got fucked over because this judge is so stupid he thought Billy Mitchell was credible. Well, yeah, credible about his own emotions.
Attempts to show that Billy is a liar. For example, we have Billy on video in 2023 during his Twin Galaxies deposition saying that the effect I've had on him is minimal.
Did the actions that Karl Jobst and David Race and Jeremy Young and Jeff Harris take also cause you emotional distress?
That is minimal compared to this.
Why?
Because this is where it all began.
However, during my trial, he claimed the exact opposite, and said that I basically ruined his life. And the judge completely disregarded his previous statements and accepted what he said at my trial at face value. And
here's the thing, though, is this is in a Twin Galaxies lawsuit. This is specifically about the cheating stuff. And what he's saying, basically, is it's minimal compared to this, because this is the origin point of all of my issues with all of these people. However, he can still then say later on down the line that your claims have ruined his life. It isn't as clear of a contradiction, or as like I understand he's a litigious guy. He's trying to maximize his fucking lawsuits here. He's being a piece of shit. But it's not as clearly contradictory as Carl wants to make it out to be. So the idea that he just got totally fucked in court is just like, it's just not true.
As fact, despite our many attempts to show that Billy is a liar. For example, we have Billy on video in 2023 during his Twin Galaxies deposition saying that the effect I've had on him is minimal.
Did the actions that Karl Jobst and David Race and Jeremy Young and Jeff Harris take also cause you emotional distress?
That is minimal compared to this,
Why?
because this is where it all began.
However, during my trial, he claimed the exact opposite and said that I basically ruined his life. And the judge completely disregarded his previous statements and accepted what he said at my trial at face value. And this is just one example of many times that this happened. And if you've watched any of my videos on Billy Mitchell in the past, especially those in regards to his deposition, you will start to realize that this judgment might not be based on truthful evidence. But again, I won't go into much detail until the very end. There are so many lies being spread right now that it's insane. I can totally understand people making fun of me because I lost and because of how cocky I was, and I can understand if people are upset because I wasn't transparent enough and they had the wrong idea about the lawsuit. And I can appreciate people are angry because I lost. I made a ton of mistakes, and I am a great example of what not to do when you're being sued. And ultimately, I am the one that will also need to pay the biggest price. In certain areas, I'm just an idiot, and I have a habit of saying things that rub people the wrong way. Of course, if I could go back and do things differently, I would. But some other things people are saying about me are just crazy and appear to me to be completely in bad faith. Like, people are spreading this screenshot long after the trial had finished and using it to try and claim that I used AI in my defense or as part of my strategy, when all this is me and some friends having some fun and seeing what AI would say.
Dude.
Many people are taking advantage of the worst experience of my life to go after me for things that are just outrageous. And it sucks because on one hand I want to defend myself.
People being mean to me on Twitter. People being mean to me about me losing a
Karl,
lawsuit.
it's me, Billy. I'm not saying I cheated at Donkey Kong, but if I did, you should consider this. Do you think a guy that got away with it for so long is bad getting what he wants? Think about it next time you want to run your mouth, hotshot.
Billy Mitchell always has a plan. Thank you for the donation.
But on the other hand, I totally agree that I made a lot of mistakes. I said things publicly I shouldn't have said that made me look bad. So I do deserve to be called out for those things. But other things are just flat out wrong or just complete lies. And if I spend too much time debunking lies, it will come across as if I think I bear no responsibility for what happened, which is not the case. So I won't. I'll just say that I hope reasonable people can understand that out of context screenshots may not be indicative of what is really going on or how I really feel. This experience has been extremely painful. However, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It's been a huge wake-up call. And
it's like, guys, I'm not as retarded as those screenshots make me look. In a video where he's saying stuff that's just as retarded as what he said in those screenshots.
There are many lessons for me to learn. So assuming I do adequate self-reflection and I grow from this, I think it will ultimately be good for this channel. I'm more motivated than ever to move on and focus on producing good content and keeping myself out of trouble.
It's all about growth.
So if you never really cared about this Billy Mitchell stuff and just want to watch some entertaining YouTube videos on cheating and speedrunning, this will be great news for you. Thank you so much to everyone who has supported me for the past few years. I can assure you that you have made this process much easier than it would have been, not only for me, but for my family as well. And I'm truly sorry to everyone I let down by not handling this as well as I could have. Thanks for watching, you legends. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I do hope that I get to see you in the next video.
Wow. Guys, I've just seen Liam as Miku again. Guys, are we seeing this?